Well, ladies and gentlemen, you see him on this network all the time. You might not see him on Down the Road, but you see him on his own show. Rick Becker, state representative from Bismarck, joins us right now. Representative Becker, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thanks, Joel. Happy to be on.
You made a little bit of news. I will tell you that. My phone blew up, quite frankly, because of your announcement that you were going to challenge John Hoeven for that Republican slot on the ticket. The obvious question to begin with is why?
Well, I made the decision first to retire from the state legislature. That was a separate decision that I had been thinking about since the end of the 2019 session. Once I decided that was a done deal, then I had to make the decision, okay, am I done with everything, or could I offer something more? Is there something more I should be doing? And the state of things, there's a lot more attention on it now. The state of things, not only in our state, but federally, where we're headed, the debt, tremendous amount of debt. I think that it's time for a fresh set of eyes on this. John Hoeven's been there for a couple of terms now, frankly, and that's what's in state law. It doesn't apply because the Supreme Court sort of squashed that. But I think that John's approach is, maybe it was fine for one time. It's not fine now. What we need in Washington, D.C. is someone who's passionate, someone who is very strong on principle and really very little concerned with political career, if you will.
So what is he doing wrong? I mean, he's from your side of the aisle. This is a man who's won every election he's been in since 2000 by substantial margins. What is he doing wrong?
Well, first, there's not going to be any personal attacks here, at least not from my side. He's a nice guy and all that. But he has been consistent from his whole time as governor for 12 years and now 12 years as U.S. Senator. He has been a big government Republican. Really the epitome of that. Big government Republican, big spending, big corporate welfare, various subsidies, more programs, very in favor of a significant amount of foreign aid, and even voting in favor of federal land grabs. There's a whole array of this aspect of what do I think is the proper role of government. He's a Republican, I'm a Republican. I would say that I'm a very conservative small government Republican. He is a more progressive big government Republican.
John Hoeven began his political career as a Democrat. Do you think that shows what you are getting at with the comments you just made?
Well, possibly, Joel. I mean, here's the thing. It's very possible you can be on one side, have certain, revelations, and you really feel like, this is the other way is maybe a better way to go. I point to Ronald Reagan. But I do think that based on how he's behaving, the knowledge that up through 96 and up until he ran for governor in 2000, he was a Democrat. I mean, that tends to follow. So I don't think it's necessarily telling, but I think in particular for John, it is telling, very telling.
So let's talk a little bit about the campaign. You say that you're not going to see any personal attacks. The question I just asked you wasn't personal. If you're not asking him, I'm not asking about his wife or his daughter or his son, or, I understand that. I mean, to me, the only way to get into this and to make headway as an obvious underdog is to make a direct attack, for a better way of putting it, comparison between policy beliefs and to call out each one. I'm a talk show host. I am on radio and I am on TV. And John Hoeven will not answer a question. I mean, that's his MO. Right. He doesn't like to answer a direct question. You do. I might not like the answer, but you do, which is why I enjoy our conversations. How do you make a case against someone that won't engage and tell people what the answer to basic questions on policy are?
Yeah. Well, you bring up a good point and a good distinction. When I say I'm not going to attack him, I am going to hold him accountable, and we are going to look at his record. I mean, he's got a very lengthy record, voting record, and we're going to be attacking that. But for the viewers and for others, I just want to clarify because, he's a well-liked guy. And the thing is, you can like him, but is he the right person to represent you? And so I'm trying to get away from that. But how I go about it is we just keep on attacking his record, looking at his record and say, hey, the Biden infrastructure bill, I think, is an abomination. It's a new Green Deal light. It only passed because 19 senators crossed over and voted in favor of it. It was because of John Hoeven and 18 others that it is now law, and that we've got billions and billions of dollars that is going to all sorts of clean energy subsidies. Joel, there's even $400 million for that's going to help fish swim upstream easier by clearing off various streams throughout the United States. I mean, it's absolutely nuts. So that's how we go about it, addressing the record, saying, here's his voting record. I'm happy to have him explain it. I'm happy to have him debate it. I would love, Joel, if he would have a debate with me. I will take that any day of the week because that's what we need. The voters need to hear what he stands for, because I don't know what he stands for. I mean, to me, he stands for country club, big government Republicans. And I would like to hear more. And so I hope he takes the opportunity to explain to the voters what he does actually stand for.
But how do you cause that? I mean, how do you create that situation? Because, as I mentioned, I'm a talk show host, and I haven't been able to squeeze that out of him. And people, you say people like him. You're not wrong about that. You're not.
Mm-hmm.
When you ask them specifically what he's done, when I get callers into my show and I say, what has he done? They can't answer it. They don't answer it because they really don't know the answer to that. And that tends me to believe it's about maintenance. You say growing government. You say the infrastructure bill is a perfect example of that. Kevin Cramer voted for the infrastructure bill. Would you label Kevin Cramer as Republican light or a country club Republican?
I wouldn't, because we have to look at the whole record. I think Kevin was horribly wrong on that vote, but there hasn't been a lot of additional votes similar to that like John Hoeven he has behind him. So I'm not giving Kevin a pass on that vote. Horrible mistake, and I think it is terrible. But he doesn't have the body of voting record that John does that says, well, that's actually who he is.
Kevin Cramer on this show a little bit earlier endorsed John Hoeven. He said that there's no reason not to elect John Hoeven. He wholeheartedly endorsed him. Does that surprise you, and how does that affect your campaign?
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, I suppose I could have hoped that he would have stayed neutral. But there's this perceived inevitability. And see, that's the way it goes with establishment Republicans. There's this perceived inevitability. This guy is either going to stay in office or this guy is going to be the next one in office. We have deemed it so. Perry Schaefer, chair of the Republican Party, says he fully supports, and he's speaking in his position as chair of the party, he fully supports John Hoeven. And for most people, that shouldn't surprise them, right? Except you and I know the party is supposed to be about the party. And it's only at the time that a candidate is endorsed for an office, then the party gets behind them. When there's more than one candidate, the party is supposed to be completely impartial. And yet here we have the party supporting one candidate. So it's expected. Everyone's going to get, even Doug Burgum's going to get behind John Hoeven. They're all going to get together behind John Hoeven, even though they may have some significant differences of opinion. The one thing that they all agree on is that they want to maintain power. And these crazy fringe conservative people that really represent the grassroots people, they represent a danger to the stability of us retaining our power, our position. So you're going to see them all come together.
Before the break, Rick mentioned that far right-wing element of the Republican Party, which many point to and say he's part of. There's a lot of different things they use to define it, but I want to give him the opportunity to define it. What you were talking about, Representative Becker, with that right-wing element, do you think you fit into that criteria?
Well, yeah, that criteria as used by the moderate Republicans and by the media, absolutely I do, because they, in their mind, they're conservative. Now, they don't necessarily vote conservative, and I'm talking about the Republicans that are the big government, progressive, country club Republicans. But everyone says conservative when they're a Republican. So then you have to ask yourself, well, how did you differentiate the ones that vote along the platform consistently every time? I mean, so if these guys are conservative, what are these guys? Well, I guess the answer would be ultra conservative. Instead, probably the proper way would be to say, well, these guys actually aren't conservative, they're conservative. So what I stand for, and it's not, so what I stand for is the Republican Party platform. And it's not because I'm a Republican, it's because that happens to be the right platform. And I've given speeches where the principle should always be first, party is second. And it just so happens, ironically, that when you behave that way, you make the party stronger because it actually stands for something. If the Republicans, Joel, actually stood consistently for their party platform, it would be better for North Dakota because it would give, on the political spectrum, it would give up territory to the Democrats. And North Dakota would be a better state if we had two fairly strong parties. Preferably with the Democrats a little weaker than the Republicans. But right now, the way it stands, to be a Republican, it doesn't necessarily mean anything because it covers from being very big government, big spending, progressive, all the way over to my end of things where I follow the platform.
So you mentioned earlier about your concern about the Republican Party in North Dakota already picking sides when it comes to this vote. Do you think you're going to get a fair chance? And the reason that I ask that is because of this. You've announced that you're going to go to the primary, which to me is the only strategy you can use. I think it's safe to say that the card-carrying everyday establishment Republicans at the convention are going to hang with the man they've been with for a long time, which is John Hoeven. But after that, you're going to make the case that as a Republican, you end up on that ballot. So isn't it fair for the same party that held that convention to then say, we're all in when it comes to John Hoeven in the primary?
Well, so let me correct you, Joel. I have not said I'm going to go to the primary. I haven't ruled it out. What I have suggested is that we hear from John Hoeven, and if he says he's going to honor the state convention, I am happy to entertain that, and we'll make a statement with regard to that. So the primary is not ruled out, but I would like to see us battle at the endorsing convention, and whoever wins the convention should have the full backing of the state party, no doubt about it. But we're not there yet. It's premature. The party shouldn't be backing anybody. So
I want to make sure that I've got this right, because obviously my understanding was wrong. If you go to the state convention, you're going to go to the state convention, seek that endorsement. Yes. If you don't get that endorsement, you're not going to go on to the primary.
No, I have not said that. So I don't know. And number one, if I feel that they've been playing too many games and tricks, then yes, I'm going to say, screw it, I'm going to the primary. If I think that they held it fair, I am more likely to honor the convention. If I can get John Hoeven to tell the people of North Dakota, to tell the Republicans whether he intends to honor the party convention, then I would like to hear that, and then I'll be able to make my decision based on that.
See, and I'm, political strategist. We both like political strategy. We talk about it all the time in our broadcasts. You've got Kevin Kramer, you've got Doug Burgum, both individuals that didn't get the endorsement at the convention or wouldn't get the endorsement at the convention that went to the primary to make their case directly to the people. I guess I assumed, falsely, that would be your strategy as well. In fact, I thought you announced that. So it seems to me, as a strategist, I'm going to throw this at you, that's really the only way you can knock off an incumbent is to take it directly to the Republicans out there, which, as you said earlier, you feel are far more conservative than what John Hoeven is.
Yeah, well, and you may be right, Joel, but I'm trying to put faith in the party. It's open to delegates throughout the state, and so the folks that are conservative, that are feeling passionate, they have to go out and they've got to become delegates. And I'm I believe in the party process. I think it works if you actually follow the rules, and it's a great opportunity for people to be involved instead of just picking up whatever headline happens to be the last thing they saw before they go into the primary voting booth. It's important for people to be involved.
There's a lot of talk out there about what you do here on Beck News and the fact that you have a television show, and whether or not you being on will be a violation of the FCC, or if not a violation, if Beck has to give equal time to Senator Hoeven. What is your determination there? Are you going to stay on Beck News and Beck TV?
Well, yeah, the plan is that I'll stay on, at least in some fashion. And because, of course, this is just essentially breaking news in the last day or so, we're going to have to work with the FEC lawyers. To whatever degree Beck is willing to give John Hoeven equal time, hey, man, there would be nothing better than for the people of North Dakota to hear what John Hoeven has to say for 5 to 10 to 25 hours, and then hear what I have to say for the same amount of time, and then let them make the decision. I would do that any day of the week.
I know, having been through that, I was in negotiations with my current employer at the time that I just won an election and had 4 more years to serve. So the FCC rules were pretty clear. We'll see how that shakes out with your show. Is there a place where people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, thanks. You can go to various social media to Dr. Rick Becker, and my website is rickbecker2022.com, rickbecker2022.com.
All right. Be safe out there on the campaign trail.